Whuppie, an adaptation of a Scottish fairy tale. Fairy tales are a kind of folk tale that have make-believe characters and unbelievable events that don't happen in real life. Most of them start with the sentence, "Once upon a time." Once upon a time, there was a couple who had too many children and they could not feed them. So they took the three youngest and left them in the woods. The girls wandered through the dark, frightening woods until they came upon a house. They knocked at the door and begged for food. But the woman inside said, "I can't let you in. My husband is a giant with a terrible temper. You can't be here when he comes home." The girls begged harder, promising to leave before the giant came home. So the woman finally let them in and fed them. But just as they had begun to eat, a dreadful voice said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of some earthly ones." And suddenly, before the girls could escape, the giant entered the house. The giant demanded to know who was in their home, and the wife said, "It's three poor, cold, and hungry girls who will go once they eat, so leave them alone." The giant grunted, ate up a big supper, and then ordered the girls to stay. Now the giant had three daughters of his own, and the lost girls were to sleep in the same room with the giant's daughters. The youngest of the three lost girls was called Molly Whuppie, and she was very clever. She noticed that before they went to bed, the giant put straw ropes around her neck and her sisters' necks, but he put gold chains around his own daughters' necks. Molly knew not to fall asleep. When she was sure all the others, especially the giant, were asleep, Molly slipped out of bed. She then quickly exchanged the straw ropes on her and her sisters' necks for the gold chains that were on the giant's daughters' necks. No one woke up during the exchange, and so Molly let out a deep sigh and fell asleep. In the night, the giant got up. He felt for the necks with straw and picked up his daughters. As they cried out, Molly and her sisters escaped. The girls ran and never stopped on their quest for safety until they saw a grand house before them. It turned out to be a king's house, so Molly went in. She told her story to the king. He said, "Well, Molly, you are a clever girl. You've managed well. But if you go back and steal the giant's sword that hangs behind his bed, I will marry your eldest sister to my eldest son." Molly said she would try. So back Molly went. She managed to slip into the giant's house and hid below the bed. The giant came home, ate up a great supper, and went to bed. Molly waited until he was sleeping soundly and snoring loudly, and then she crept out. Next, Molly reached over the giant and got down the sword, but it rattled, waking the giant. Molly ran out with the sword. The giant ran after her. They came to the bridge of one hair. Molly swiftly crossed it, but the giant couldn't. The giant yelled at Molly, but Molly took the sword to the king. Her oldest sister was married to the king's oldest son. The king later said, "You've managed well, Molly, but if you will steal the purse that lies under the giant's pillow, I will marry your second sister to my second son." Molly said that she would try.
So Molly set out for the giant's house, slipped in, and hid below the bed again. When the giant was snoring loudly and sound asleep, she crept out. She then slipped her hand under the pillow and grabbed the purse. However, as Molly was escaping, the giant woke. Molly ran, and the giant ran after her. They came to the bridge of one hair. Molly swiftly crossed it, but the giant couldn't. He yelled at Molly, but she took the purse to the king. Her second sister was married to the king's second son. The king then said, "Molly, you are a clever girl, but if you will steal the giant's ring, I will give you my youngest son for yourself." Molly said she would try. So back Molly went to the giant's house and hid herself under the bed. The giant ate a huge meal and then went to his bed. Shortly, he was snoring loudly. Molly crept out and took hold of the giant's hand. Swiftly, she pulled the ring off the giant's finger. But before she could run, the giant gripped her by the hand and he said, "Now I have you, Molly Whuppie. If I had done as much ill to you as you have done to me, what would you do to me?" Molly thought fast and said, "I would put you into a sack with a cat, a dog, a needle and thread, and shears. Next, I'd hang the sack up on the wall. Then I'd get a big stick. Finally, I would take you down, still in the sack, and hit the sack." "Well, Molly," said the giant, "I'll just do that to you." So he put Molly in a sack with all the things she had listed. Then he hung the sack on the wall and went to get a big stick. Molly, inside the sack, sang out, "Oh, if you saw what I see!" "Oh," said the giant's wife, "what do you see, Molly?" But Molly just sang out once more, "Oh, if you saw what I see!" The giant's wife begged Molly to take her up into the sack so she could see what Molly saw. So Molly took the shears and cut a hole in the sack. Then she took the needle and thread and jumped down. She then helped the giant's wife into the sack and sewed up the hole. The giant's wife saw nothing and begged to get out, but Molly simply hid herself behind a door. The giant came home with a big stick and took down the sack. He raised up the stick, but did not swing it when he heard the cat mew and the dog bark. "Be quiet!" he yelled. Molly used this opportunity to sneak out. The giant saw her out of the corner of his eye and ran after her. They came to the bridge of one hair. Molly got over the bridge, and the giant couldn't. The giant yelled, but Molly just ran on to the king with the ring. And so Molly, the youngest and cleverest, was married to the king's youngest son, and Molly never saw the giant again.